Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate you joining us on our CSBG quarterly call. Um, do want to give a shout out to Snow Staples. She's on the call with us. Some of you might have seen her virtually on the conference last week, but just it's her first quarterly call with us. So thank you very much. And we are going to keep on going. So we'll start with our land acknowledgement as we always do. The Colorado DOLA building itself is situated on the traditional land of several indigenous groups to include the Sioux, Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho people. Additionally, our reach extends throughout the state, covering traditional lands of various indigenous groups and cultures who have stewarded this land throughout generations and continue to do so. We acknowledge and express respect and gratitude to these people and are committed to continually working to create a long-lasting, non-extraditive, and supportive relationship with Native people throughout Colorado. Next one is our labor acknowledgement. We acknowledge that much of what we know of this country today, including its culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their descendants. Additionally, we acknowledge the Chinese immigrants who built railroads that allowed for westward American development, Japanese Americans who prosperities and livelihoods were taken from them while incarcerated during World War II, and migrant workers from the Philippines, Mexico, and Central and South America who've worked Pacific Northwest farms and canneries. We recognize that immigrants and American-born workers of African, Asian, and Central and South American descent whose labor remains hidden in the shadows but still contributes to the well-being of our collective community and who have fostered the conditions for us to be able to access our current quality of life, and those who have gathered, prepared food, and provided essential services. The first part of our meeting today, we are going to be focusing on our CSBG Colorado State Plan. State Plan is part of the CSBG Act that we prepare the plan, and it lets OCS, which is Office of Community Services, know how we are going to be allocating our CSBG funds and meeting all the requirements that are necessary. We do a 2-year state plan, so this one will technically cover us for 2026 and 2027. It's got a ton of information in it, and it's a very information-heavy state plan report. I'm sure you all have seen the printout of it, and it's a lot of information. So today, what I wanted to do was look at the sections that the list on the right is sections that come from a lot of state information and answering questions that we will get to fill out. And then the list on the left in the box are ones that we are able to get input and share information and have you all contributing and be a part of that and reflecting on what we do have in there. We also use the information that we gather from other meetings and conversations, your action plans, the annual training and technical assistance survey, and of course, conversations that we're having with our state association. So these are the ones that we're focusing on today. The first section that we were looking at is section 3, the goals and objectives. What we have stated for state of Colorado's goals and objectives based on information from the last year or so, increased eligible entity involvement with state plan process. So this is practice for next time and getting involved sooner. Continue to improve and streamline eligible entity resources, ensuring accessibility standards are met, as well as removing redundancy of information collected. And CSBG with Colorado is participating in the WIOA State Plan Partner Steps, which is kind of a state level. WIOA is involving anybody and everybody that might support and have similar goals, and what that'll look like. More details to come. This is a new work in progress that the state is working with, and CSBG is a part of that. The next one, section 6, organizational standards. We set our goals for what percent of eligible entities we'd like to see meeting 100% of the organizational standards. And I know Josiah and I talk quite frequently that org standards are not 100% met 100% of the time, and that they are a learning and a work in progress, of course. This is when we assess them, which we know is coming up this year fairly soon as well. Previously, our goals had been 40% and 45% in our 2-year state plan. Words are hard today. Thanks for your patience. And so in 2024, and looking at the graph, the greens are the most recent one, which was program year 24 that we reported in 25. We had 8 entities meeting 100%, which is 29%. So it's looking at the goals for 2026 being a 38% and 2027 being a 42%. I'm kind of excited about those as our potential goals and meeting the org standards for that. The graph is kind of fun. You can see more and more folks are moving towards that 80% and above for how many org standards are met at any given time when we are doing the assessments. The next section is section 8 on training and technical assistance. And when we were reviewing the organizational standards, the most missed ones from our last submission, training will focus on tripartite board, advisory board committee, and the board requirements, preparing our community needs assessments when it's time to prepare for those on the next application cycle. So looking at those were what the standards related to. And of course, training and technical assistance. And I know Josiah and the CCA do the annual training and technical assistance survey, have addressed a lot of those in the conference that just happened last week as well. And we continue to do those. And just to say it out loud, I do have a little survey that will go out after this, so you all can do feedback on your thoughts on these sections as well, and additional input that we can include in our state plan for this year. Section 9, linkages and communication. The Section 9 really focuses on the communications that the state has with you all as eligible entities, as well as how well we communicate with state association and the state association communicating with you all. Section 9 also looks at linkages, which I know is one of all of our favorite topics, and it's really easy and fascinating, and we all get 200% on it all the time. And so Section 9 being able to look at what linkages are at those local levels, and that's really about the coordination and collaboration to avoid duplicating services, and also realizing where those gaps in your local communities are. And then at the state level as well, when we are often having those guest speakers as part of our quarterly calls to talk about their availability and what services they have. Section 13 really focuses on Roma. As you all know, we use Roma here in the state of Colorado with our CSBG. We have those fabulous trainings through CCAA. And then also our use of the NPIs, which are the National Performance Indicators. And one of the most frequent times you see those is with the annual activity and projection sheets that you work with Josiah on to really help translate CSBG speak into like local and what that looks like for you all. And then of course we see that with our community needs assessments and community action plans that occur with those every 3-year application cycles. Section 14, programmatic assurances. It really looks at, as a state, how eligible entities, so it's not just the state offices, but all of us as a whole as a state, how eligible entities target low-income individuals and families, support innovative community initiatives, and supporting any emergency provisions or needs that come up in the local communities. And so we, look at the information that you all have provided on your applications, which feels like 100 years ago, 2 years ago, and also as part of the little Google form surveys, kind of what that looks like for you all currently, so that we can capture current information and what that might look like in the coming year or two. So very short summary. The state plan, it's a ginormous, hefty document that communicates with OCS how we'll run CSBG and meeting those requirements. And it's kind of a roadmap for us for the next 2 years. It's really nice that we can also do any updates that we need to do after year 1 to apply for year 2. So it's not a forever in cement for 2 years in case like something changes, as we do know things fluctuate and change in our work that we do. Dates and timelines that we're looking at. The link is active in the slides that we will get out to you all, and I will, when I am not talking, pop that link in the chat for you all. feedback from you all through definitely getting that back to us by August 15th. We will also be scheduling a public meeting, probably the first week of August, so that there can be a public meeting and public comment period that will also be open through August 15th. And then the state submits it to OCS no later than September 1st. With that being a holiday weekend, it means August 29th this year, which is very exciting. Phew, brain break. Any good dad jokes out there or funny puns while we have a brain break? None at all. Fantastic. We will keep rocking and rolling. Oh, Mandy, raise your hand. Go for it.
This is my favorite joke. I've told it before, maybe on this meeting, so forgive me, but maybe you'll laugh twice. But what's green and has wheels? Grass. I lied about the wheels.
I am definitely going to retell that joke many times and it will help me remember. Ooh, Lee, you also have your hand up.
I do. My mom sent me this one last week. What is a pessimist's blood type? B negative.
Ah, so an optimist blood type would be B positive?
Got it.
Nice. Oh, that was a wonderful brain break. Thank you all. Definitely appreciate that. So, jumping back into it, thank you for some things recently. Attending the CSBG Region 8 Community Action Conference in Loveland, virtual and in person. That was last week. Definitely huge shout out to CCAA, Josiah, and Blake, and Abigail, and the entire committee that worked on that, and Andrea as our MC. What a fantastic week. Thank you all. I'm sure Josiah will chat about it as well in his updates. Also wanted to say thank you to everybody for annual report data review and resubmission. We did just get our second review notes from OCS, and if we need to, Josiah and I'll reach out to y'all directly for any questions or additional follow-up on their second round of questions for us. And then ACSI feedback, it feels like it was a million years ago, and just thank you for that. And just next couple slides are looking at that to share that information with you all. This one shows what the national scores in the purple, and then the green scores are Colorado. And the names that are really tiny on the bottom are also listed there on the side to make it a little more readable. But for development of the CSBG state plan, Colorado is at a 66. The next one in their distribution of funds, Colorado is 85, use of discretionary funds 83, training and technical assistance 91, monitoring and corrective actions 85, linkages 76, communication 90, and gives us an overall score, customer satisfaction index score of 89. The national average for customer satisfaction index was 73, so yay Colorado for rocking it out of the park. And last year we were at 90, so it's still within that range. And then we know part of our focus and part of our state plan is looking at our lower scores, which were development of the state plan and linkages. And that's generally pretty much practice for all of us all the time. This one looks at our Colorado scores over the years, and there's scores from 2015, 17, 19, 21, and 25. Just in each of those areas, and you can kind of see there's ups and downs on some of them as they go through, and also kind of like a nice doing pretty well and like growth pattern. If you are interested and curious about like full summary of results, it is available, and just reach out to me. Short answer on the ACSI scores, I really appreciate you all helping us continue to grow and learn with you. Some upcoming due dates that we have, organizational standards due at the end of the month. We do have some office hours scheduled tomorrow at 10 a.m. and then next week on July 29th at 2 p.m. If you missed those or the email got buried, just give a shout out. We can forward those to you again as well. And with the org standards, when you finished working on them, please give us a heads up and we'll start reviewing them sooner than later. And the Org standards, we were able to, if it said met from last year, it should still say met in the system. So when you're looking at them, if it says met, you don't have to worry about it at this point. And all attachments or any uploads you've done in there should also still be in the system as well. Semi-annual reports are due by the end of the month. I know a lot of you have been sending those in. Thank you all very much. And then spend downs of federal fiscal year 24 funds. If you have questions or concerns around that, like definitely reach out to me, and we're always, keeping tabs on it. We'll reach out if we have questions for you as well. And I am now happy to pass it to Josiah.
Thanks, Becky. Appreciate the passing, and just wanted good afternoon, everyone. Josiah Massengale, CEO of the Colorado Community Action Association. Kind of feel like I don't need an introduction because I got to see so many of you in person last week, and that was wonderful. Thank you again for your engagement and all the energy that you brought. A little caveat to what Becky mentioned on the MET standards for org standards. That is the case if it was categorized as MET last year and the standard doesn't require either ongoing or more often than annual or annual updating. So if it's something that you have to do every year, then you do have to work on it again. But if it's something that is more than a year, that lasts longer than that, it should stay met. So just didn't want to be any confusion there when you went in and really saw some of those that you figured you met last year and are coming up that you need to do them again. Real quickly, before we get into the couple of items that we have at the CCAA, I did want to mention that we are the lowest scoring state for the National Community Action Foundation CapVax subscriptions. The CapVax subscription is one of the best ways for our network to support NCAF and all the work they do. And it's really instrumental right now, as always, but especially now that we support NCAF. And we were really fortunate to have David Bradley, CEO of NCAF, at our conference last week to give a legislative update. And in the few seconds that I got to talk with David as he's running in and out of the conference up to the podium and then back out to the car to get back to the airport, one of the things he mentioned to me is that Colorado is dead last in CapVax subscriptions. I know for whatever reason, a lot of you cannot purchase a CapVax subscription. It is considered training and technical assistance funds, and it's allowable under an eligible activity under our contracts in Colorado. So it is something that can be done under training and technical assistance. The cost is $1,000. I know sometimes it's cost prohibitive with your budget with CSBG, certainly understand that. And then certainly understand there's other reasons why you all might not be able to formally purchase a CapVax. But I do know there are folks out there and situations out there, eligible entities out there that can purchase CapVax, and it would really make a big difference, not only with NCAF, but across the network, if we could participate as much as possible. So if I could answer any other questions around becoming a CapVax subscription member, let me know. It does come with really great correspondence from NCAF that others do not get. So it's something that does come with a lot of information, and you get regular coffee chat invitations with David Bradley over Zoom as well. So it does come with some really great benefits. So I'll move on from that and move on to a very related subject. It's the CSBG FY26 funding update and strategy. Those of you that heard David Bradley speak last week at the conference, this is a bit of a regurgitation of it all, but I did want to make sure everybody knows what the latest status is. CSBG has not been involved in any of the recent bills naming funding that has been rescinded basically through Congress, which is a very positive thing for our program. We are looking towards the 2026 appropriations process and ensuring that CSBG remains flat funding for the FY26 federal fiscal year. There's a lot of work that needs to be done between now and September through NCAF and also out in the field. And so one of the things that's been emphasized by David Bradley and NCAF and by our regional partners like the North Dakota Community Action Partnership and Andrea Olson is that we are contacting our representatives as appropriate, which is always a special caveat in Colorado with our large public entity base. But as appropriate, contacting our representatives and making sure they understand the importance of the program locally. They're going to be going on recess in August, and our big strategy is to have field visits either at their offices or invite them to come to one of your offices to see the wonderful work you're doing out there in your communities. So this is a big goal of ours over the next couple of months, and we're hoping that come the end of September, if there is in fact either a continuing resolution or a fresh appropriations bill, that CSBG is included with flat funding. The one additional note I did want to make is that David Bradley has also been sure to make sure we all understand that that does not end it, that there is also a looming threat of rescissions after that, which is a whole different issue and thing that we will then have to address at that point in time. It wasn't an issue this past year with fiscal year 25 funding. We were one of the programs that relatively got our funding relatively easily this past fiscal year. But that is something else that we'll be looking at. So, there is a kind of a stage set up for the rest of this year on what we're looking at and what we're hoping to accomplish and what we need to be aware of as far as threats go. So, if you ever want to reach out to me and talk more, please do. If you want to strategize on how you might reach out to your representative or invite them to your office, let me know. If you do end up meeting with your representative or somebody in your circle does, we'd love to know that. Love to know how it went, any topics that were discussed, etc. And we have a target of some congressional support that we're hoping to have lined up by the end of August. So the next couple of weeks is going to be really crucial to our network. Questions or comments on those first couple points? Okay. So obviously a lot of work on that front to do as we move forward. I feel like a bit of a car salesman. I am going to ask you to also support us, as always, through our membership period. It opened on July 1st. We have contacted you all where your membership lapsed, or maybe you weren't on membership last period for whatever reason. So we would really appreciate you considering signing up to be a member with us for this current program year. Not only does it help us financially, but it also helps us to show that support when we're talking to our partners as well and to show a broad membership base. So your support is so greatly appreciated. Again, membership to the CCAA is an allowable, eligible activity under training and technical assistance within our contracts and within uniform guidance. Okay, on to the conference recap. It was a very successful week in Loveland last week. A lot of highlights, a lot of really important takeaways, I think. And we're now gathering evaluation and input on how it all went. But as always, want to hear from you all directly if you have any thoughts. And would be more than happy to open the floor for any thoughts for anybody that was in attendance, either in person or virtually. I think offering it hybrid format was a new thing for us and a new thing for a lot of folks. And we feel like it was pretty successful. We were happy that we were able to get more folks in front of the content and the program. And we'll see what that means for future gatherings and for future convenings. But again, we appreciate all of you all that took the time, either virtually or in person, to engage throughout the week in the conference in various ways. The really great thing about doing it in a hybrid fashion was that we were able to record everything for the most part. And so we are going to be uploading virtually the entire conference to the Region 8 Moodle platform that we have through our partnership with the Region 8 RPIC, North Dakota Community Action Partnership. You all have free access to that Moodle platform, and we're going to be getting all of that content loaded up on that into our Moodle learning online learning platform. there are some workshops that I could definitely recommend that were well attended, really well received at the time. And then, of course, the general sessions as well. So if you are interested in hearing David Bradley's legislative update, you'll be able to view that as well. We hope to get all the recordings up over the next couple weeks. Please be patient with us. It's a lot to do as we're all getting back in the office and looking at our inboxes and in our mailboxes at the amount of stuff we got over last week and that we have to address. So appreciate your patience, and we'll let you know when that all is up online. Any comments on the conference from those that attended, or any questions overall on those first 3 bullet points? Well, we'll keep on moving forward then. One of the things that I think we are seeing and we've noticed, going back a while now, is that things are pretty tight around budgets, obviously around travel, even travel restrictions at times. So we do have a lot of stuff coming up national partner wise, and we would love to support anyone that wants to attend the Partnership National Conference that is at the end of this upcoming month, at the end of August, um, or the NASCASP conference that is at the end of September. And both are really great national conferences. We would love to have Colorado engagement at those conferences, Colorado representation. We do have some minor funding in our scholarship budget still that we could support some folks attending those. So if you have yourself or any staff or tripartite board members that are interested in attending either of those conferences, the National Community Action Partnership, which I believe is in Detroit at the end of August, or the National Association for State Community Services Programs, what we lovingly call NASCASP, which is going to be, I believe, in Chicago at the end of September. So really cool cities to travel to, and really great conferences to attend. We have an upcoming in-person Roma training in Castle Rock. Can't wait to get down in Castle Rock, do an in-person training down there on August 22nd. You can register for that in-person training on our website. We're still formulating our training schedule for Roma trainings, mostly the virtual side, through the end of 2025. I think we'll probably release that over the next month or so, 1 or 2 more virtual trainings that we'll be offering to our network. So for those of you that want to get that to your board or are looking to get a Roma training under your own belt, hopefully we'll be able to offer those to you before the end of the year. And then lastly, Becky alluded to it earlier, that process where we go through and we look at what we're going to project to do, and we talk about all of our activities. And really, when you think about the annual report that we end up doing, it's the targeting process, right? Where we come up with that target number that you all report around in the annual report, where you say, this is how many outcomes or unduplicated individuals to get this outcome we planned or targeted to get. That process is coming up. We like to do that before the start of the next program period. The start of our next program period, if you can believe it, is on January 1st, and we're going to be flying right up to it. So we're going to start asking you all to put together your projections, your target numbers for the program year 2026 in the fall. I think there's some other things that are going to be taking place, obviously, around that time frame. Looking forward to the next program year that we'll be talking about, but did want to give you a heads up. Becky mentioned that we got some more feedback from our federal partners at the Office of Community Services on our annual report for last year. So we'll continue to look at those. And then we can really start looking forward. And of course, we always recommend that you look at what you accomplished the previous period and then think about what you're going to be doing over the next period before you make those projections. So something that takes a bit of time, and we like to be very intentional about the process. So appreciate you all starting to get that on your radar, and knowing that we'll start to email you and ask you for some good times for us to meet in over a Zoom real quick and talk about what you accomplished in the past performance period, and what you're planning to accomplish in the next one, 2026. And I believe that's all of my items. Any questions or comments on our stuff? Big shout out to DOLA. Wonderful support at the conference last week. As always, Colorado is a leader in our region and nationally. And having the DLG director, Eric Bergman, be one of our welcome remarks and doing a really wonderful job was such a delight. So as always, a big thank you to our partners at DOLA.
I know Eric had a really fun time and was excited that he could join everybody and get to know us a little bit more. So yeah, I definitely flew through my earlier ones. Of course, any questions about the 600 things that I talked about earlier in the meeting? Yes, Lauren.
I don't know if this is for the feedback, but we've put it in our past two semi-annual reports. I'm wondering if between CCAA, sorry, there's way too many acronyms in the world, and DOLA, if other people have like a good, clear board training. I have very much struggled to meet that in previous org standards reports, and we've tried to create our own, and then we're like, oh, we forgot, like, and so I just want to we have such a great and active board. We are almost full in a really cool way, and I just want to prepare them in a really healthy and supportive way, and I'm wondering what that looks like between the CCAA and DOLA.
Josiah, you want to pop in first?
Oh, well, sure. Becky, thanks. And Lauren, thanks for the question and comment. And as always, the wonderful work done out there in Jefferson County. I think, as always, the answer is a bit nuanced, but it depends on the board. I know you all, like you mentioned, have a full board, an engaged board, meets regularly. The folks are really, very, very much involved in your meetings, and which is wonderful. And I would say you got a bit of an advanced board. You got some new folks, and there's always that turnover, so there's always that need for some 101 and then a bit of advanced. And I'd say for the advanced stuff, the cap law, it really does have some wonderful resources for tripartite boards, and also public entities, which I think is also very helpful for tripartite board members to understand a bit of what it means to be a public entity in our network, because it's vastly different than the private nonprofit 501c3 that has a governing board as its tripartite board, right? So, even the tripartite board members having a bit of an understanding of what the programmatic requirements of a public entity is very helpful. So cap law, I think for the Roma stuff, the National Peer-to-Peer Roma Training website is also really good. And then I would also say for those basic ones, we have a 101 that was done a couple years ago that we probably could update and re-record, but that's also readily available. Becky, your thoughts on some other resources?
Yeah, definitely agree on that. And I went to the workshop about the Region 8 Moodle, and I'm trying to remember if they might have had some board related trainings and information potentially available there. So when we get that Moodle information out to you all, you can check out and see what trainings are there. I know there's some that are applicable to all, and some of the trainings are state specific for our region. But it would be another good place to check out beyond the cap law and the trainings that Josiah talked about.
And then I think it's also something where you have to be careful when you send folks outside, because we are so different at times in how we do things with having a big public entity base. So sometimes you look at something and like, for instance, you go into one of the other state trainings and they may say, this is how you have to do it, but that's not necessarily how you have to do it in Colorado. So just keep that in mind, especially as you're pointing board members in different directions. Again, a good thing to help them to understand what it means to be a tripartite advisory committee member in a public entity for CSBG in Colorado.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Any links would be super helpful to the specific trainings, because I also do want to acknowledge that these people are volunteers. So I'm trying, like, if I can give them clarity on what is like most helpful of the trainings, we do put out the CCAA Roma. We do the Roma through the CCAA. We have that. And there's just right, like it's you're redoing the schedule. So we do that. We also just have some things, but yeah, if there's any like links to some specific helpful ones that we can just
Sure.
and compare and contrast with what we currently have, that would be super helpful.
And Lauren, you had me thinking also that, and this is something I know you do very well at as well at Jefferson County, but in your board meetings, having a little time set aside for what we would consider board training, right? If it's whether it's just talking about a certain part of the CSBG Act, or maybe a certain role that the advisory committee maybe plays in the, for instance, maybe you do an RFP process. I know I don't believe Jefferson County does, but you know, a lot of entities do. So a little bit of training on what that, you know, process does, maybe some of the policies and procedures behind it. You know, you could always spend 10 or 15 minutes. And I think that's a great way to train a board that is really busy and is volunteering their time. And a lot of times doesn't have a ton of capacity to do anything, you know, outside those meetings sometimes.
I think it'll be a really helpful resource, not just for yourself, Lauren, but for other public and eligible entities, as we're talking about trying to make it less stressful for you all and having these resources available to share with one another or have on our like collective pages where you're like, oh yeah, we do have that list going. I appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah. And just so you know, I know we've directed you to Moodle in the past. It's actually being redesigned now. North Dakota spent a lot of time doing that the past 5 to 6 months. So kind of that at the conference was kind of the launch of the new Moodle.
That's great. Thank you both. I'm excited to see what comes out of that. I know that we did use some of the regional aid and that we ran into issues. So I think any ability to share training opportunities would be super appreciated.
Yeah. We had Capla do a workshop called Purely Public CAAs, and I think they have a training on their website that kind of goes through pretty much the same things. It was updated by the presenter, obviously, Savannah Arl from Capla. So yeah, that's probably one of the first things that we'll probably send you is that Purely Public CAA training that I'm pretty sure is on Capla's. Capla has a wonderful library that if you kind of dig into it, a specific subject, you get all their links, and then sometimes you even have to click on, you know, a drop down to get the link again. So it's a little complicated, but once you get to the right place, it's really wonderful material. Great question.
What other questions?
Guess why we have just a little bit of radio silence. The Office of Community Services did concentrate a bit more on some different things in their annual report review, and you all probably saw that. One of the big ones was in the demographic report, having all of those individual and household demographic characteristics, you know, pieces all add up to the totals. So there was a lot of requesting you to enter in unknown, not reported numbers. You know, we'll grab that in the future years and make sure that doesn't get through them. And then for those of you that did community level work, this was the first year they ever reviewed the Module 3 work, and obviously they had a lot of questions. So I wanted to say thank you to you all for your patience and graciousness with Becky and I and all of us as we went through that process, and hopefully really addressed their questions and presented them with really strong data, because that's, you know, obviously very important to us to present strong data to our federal partners.
Definitely echo all Josiah said on that, and you know, the support and the annual report and all the data and the information to pretty much brag on what you all are doing and how amazing you are, because we all know it's incredibly hard work and you all do really good.
Sometimes I know it feels like it doesn't, lead to anything, but just as an example, I did have NCAF contact us recently and say, hey, we're meeting with this representative. Do you have any data that you could provide? And of course, this is all aggregate data, but yeah, we were able to tap into some of the annual report data that, you all have been, so great about providing, and we know that it's been reviewed at least a couple of times and feel pretty good about it. And it, I think it helped lead to a good meeting.
Yes, Lauren.
Sorry all, but I have thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
On the annual report, we did a report out to our board, and we notified them of the upcoming changes to specifically the gender category. They did express concerns over people wanting to access services if they can identify as they would prefer. And I'm just wondering if that information gets somewhere, because I do want, like, I was very appreciative of, they're trying to think of like, how do we ensure supporting our entire community, and make things easier. And so I don't know if that's part of the NCAF in part of their advocacy or where it can be advocated to. But they did express some concern over that, the lack of gender, not as the state's doing something wrong, CCAA is doing something wrong. They understood, they just were concerned.
I appreciate you asking about that. I know when that very first came out and I asked our OCS program person about it, they likely will keep it just as two genders for the information that gets reported up to them. As you are working on yours and your forms, that is within your purview, what your forms reflect for your community needs, and then the information that fits into the annual reports then gets up and reported to OCS, which I know is kind of a non-answer, but an answer.
And I don't really have anything to add other than I understand. And yeah, I think you all have all the data locally, so that gives me some assurance that, because obviously they can look at this is the one area that they didn't true up, right, in their review, was the individual gender characteristics. You could look at the total served individuals and then look at the gender, and you could back your way into those that, didn't report as one or the other. So yeah, I understand the question for sure.
And I do acknowledge that there are many more elephants in the room, kind of hanging out and lurking in the background. And as we are able to share communications, make comments on that, we certainly will. I know Josiah is sometimes able to get information out quicker than the state, as a state association, when there's information and things going on. It's elephants in all the rooms at all the levels, from what I'm understanding with the meetings with NASCAP and the meetings with OCS. And the best we all are doing is that, yes, there are elephants in the room. And when we have more information, of course, we will share it as we can. Thank you all for continuing to juggle while you're on unicycles, going around the elephants in the room and managing the uncertainty that we are all dealing with. Any other questions or comments at the moment? I know y'all are processors as well, and you're always welcome to reach out to us with questions, scheduling like Google Meet, Zoom meetings, phone calls, connections. I did pop the link for the feedback on the state plan in there. It'll also be part of the slides that go out. And again, we really appreciate all of your time today and being a part of the Colorado CSBG network and all the hard work that you all do. Thank you so much. And we hope you all have a great rest of your day.